In this video, I'm going to be talking about sleep hygiene and why it's important to get a really good night's sleep. Hi, I'm Fran from Empowered Existence, mental health education for adults and young people alike. Today, I'm talking really briefly about the importance of sleep and how we can try and increase our deep sleep. So sleep is important for both our physical and our emotional health and well-being. We know that when we have a deep sleep and a restorative sleep, we can wake up feeling fresher and more able to take on the things that are thrown at us the next day. Sleep is really important for our memory and reprocessing what has happened throughout the day, particularly if we've had a high stress day or a day where we've felt a little bit more sad or down than usual. When we sleep, our brain is able to process all of the things that have happened in a way that we couldn't do while we're awake. When we sleep, our body also helps to restore and repair itself, so physically as well. When we don't have good sleep and we're having a numerous amount of nights in a row of poor sleep, whether that be quality or quantity, we know that our mental health can have a huge impact. We're not as resilient and we're not as able to take on everything that happens. So getting the right amount of sleep, as well as a really good quality sleep, is really important for yourself, for your self-esteem, your confidence, your mental health. Particularly if you experience high levels of anxiety or depression, it's really important to focus on working on your sleep. In all my years of being a counsellor, I don't think I've had one client who is experiencing anxiety or depression that sleeps well. So that says to me that a lot of people who are experiencing these symptoms aren't getting the right sleep that they need. So we know that if we can work on those, we can help ourselves feel emotionally stronger, more resilient, and able to take on the other things that come after that. So while we're sleeping, we can relax our bodies, relax our minds, but most importantly, we want to try and get a really good amount of deep sleep. Now, deep sleep is increased by what happens in the build-up or the lead-up before we go to bed. And this is called our sleep hygiene. So what happens, that routine that happens sort of throughout the day, but mostly in the few hours before bed. What we want to look at is during the day, trying to get a little bit of exercise so that when it comes to nighttime, our body is tired as well. Sometimes if we've sat still all day at a desk or we haven't done much moving, we might not feel as tired. It can be harder to get to sleep, particularly if the mind is wandering. I will talk on future videos about how to tackle those thoughts that keep you awake at night and what you can do to help to switch them off and to avoid that struggle with them, which can then actually take away from your quality of sleep as well. So sleep hygiene, what is it and what does it look like? So in the few hours before bed, you've probably heard a lot of things. People will say, try to avoid blue lights. Okay, that can be hard if you have work deadlines, if you only have an hour of your day to yourself at night and you really want to watch a TV show, or you've got to do something on your phone. But there are options now. We're really lucky. So on your iPhone, you can do night mode, which actually turns the screen to a dark. And we can have blue light blocking glasses as well. So there are options there to help decrease the amount of blue light that gets through to the brain to stop it being overstimulated before bed. Best is if you can put the phone down, but understand that sometimes that can't happen. I strongly encourage all of my clients to not use social media, particularly in the 2 hours before bed, because what can happen is we can sit in bed on our phones and we start comparing ourselves to others and everything that we're seeing on social media. And we all know that sometimes when you get on it, half an hour can pass and you don't even realize that you've been on it. So if you do need to use the phone or your TV, just to make sure you're watching something lighthearted and something that makes you feel good and something that motivates you, rather than something that's taking away your self-esteem. We can introduce things such as baths or some yoga, some meditation, and some quiet time before bed. Strongly encourage teaching your brain and your body to start slowing down in those 2 hours before bedtime, and it will start to signal to yourself that it's time to go to bed. So your brain knows that when you get into bed, it's time to go to sleep. This will help to fall asleep faster and help to get into a deeper sleep. We can also decrease the amount of food we're eating at nighttime. So ideally, you want to have almost 3 hours before you go to bed where you're not eating or drinking, particularly if you're having big, heavy dinners or sugary drinks. We want to make sure that you've got enough time to digest that food and those drinks before you go to sleep. If you do go to sleep straight after a big meal, your body will be using a lot of energy to digest that food, and that'll take away from the restorative process while you're sleeping. We can also have time where we put the lights out before bed. So you might introduce some salt lamps in your home, or if you have the ability to add a dimmer, or the different lights that you have in your house. So you can look at maybe having a light in a further away room on, but not the light right directly above you. So we want to start trying to turn the lights down or off. And if we can do that in rhythm with the sun, that's even better too. We are one of the only animals that doesn't actually stay sleeping in rhythm with the sun anymore. So we stay up late, and we have a lot of people on night shift and a lot of people staying up who aren't going to sleep when the sun goes down and waking when the sun rises. It's obviously difficult in some areas of the world as well, or in daylight savings or non-daylight savings. So where possible, we want to try and go down around sundown, go to bed at sundown, and coming up when the sun comes up. We also want to be looking between 7 and 9 hours. So sometimes it's a bit of trial and error what works for you, but the average sort of teenager, late teenager, and adult will need between 7 and 9 hours sleep. So if you know that you have to get up every single day at 5 or 6 o'clock, then you work backwards and you'll be going to bed at 9 or 10 o'clock in the evening. So then you start your sleep routine about 2-3 hours before that. So if you know that you have to be in bed by 9 o'clock because you get up at 5, then you're ideally wanting to be eating dinner at 6 o'clock. I know that might be very early for some people. The other thing we want to try and avoid is caffeine and stimulants in the afternoon. So if you are a coffee drinker, a tea drinker, trying to finish those off before 2, if not even before 12, so that your body has time to work and digest that before bed. We also know that if we miss our first sleep cycle, which often hits at around 9:30, 10 p.m. for most people, that we then often feel like we can get a wave of energy. And what that is that's actually a release of cortisol, which is our stress hormone. So sometimes people feel like they're a night owl and they really do struggle to get to sleep because they've missed that first sleep window. So we want to start trying to take a bit of time to tune into our bodies and listen to when we first get that little hint of tiredness and starting to prepare and get into bed at that time rather than preparing after. And then by the time you're getting into bed, you're actually getting a release of cortisol, which will stimulate your body and your mind and either make it really hard to get to sleep, keeping you in bed awake, lying and thinking, or will end up keeping you up doing other chores, which then eats into the night. So these are just a few of the things that you can do to have better sleep. I hope that you try some of these exercises or activities, particularly some of the meditation or the yoga, calming down and calming the body before sleep. And stay tuned when I release some more tips and some more activities for mental health and wellbeing. Thank you. In this video, I'm going to be talking about sleep hygiene and why it's important to get